chests just in case I got in a bind. Whilst building the mob farm and in between idling sessions, I also engaged in numerous other ventures. One of them was constructing a sheep farm to create a limitless supply of wool. This allowed me to lessen my dependence on TNT, which before now was the only reasonable. Using some hay bales I found in the village, I was able to lure and breed sheep until I had a plethora of the buggers. To keep up with breeding demands, I also started a wheat farm near the spawner, harvesting the wheat using a water bucket. I also built a chicken farm and a cow farm that I would later use for food. Finally, I attempted to repent for my sin of total disregard for virtual life by rebuilding most of the village with wool. It looked about as good as you would expect from someone who doesn't give a shit about Minecraft NPCs. You hear that, you rectangular prism nose looking ass motherfucker? You better remember what I did for you. Next to the sheep farm, there was a convenient lava pool that I used to make a nether portal. It took me around 15 minutes to build, mostly out of sheer paranoia that I would accidentally create a cobblestone, or even worse, an obsidian block that would force me to start over. Thankfully, it was a pretty typical non-diamond pickaxe build with a lot more frames and staircases in order to reach the top parts. Despite all the upset people in chat telling me that I was an amateur and was taking way too long, I successfully built my portal without any serious mistakes. Now it was time for the nether, and holy shit did I spawn in a terrible spot. Fun fact, this challenge was done right before the biome update for the nether went up, so I had absolutely no experience with it. Funner fact, I actually haven't played Minecraft since the Wither update, and I haven't actually ever beaten the Ender Dragon. Anyway, because I was in the air, I was forced to make my own path, which, again, without the sneak button was extremely dangerous. Since death was inevitable, I dropped most of the blocks on the bridge while I was building so that when I did fall, I didn't lose everything. In addition to the ordinary dangers of the nether, I was always paranoid of getting soft-locked in a 1-block wide hole without any enemy to kill me. Due to the spiky generation of basalt deltas in particular, I was nervous that I would fall into a hole where the spikes surrounding me would prevent enemies from climbing in and getting me out. Luckily, I never ran into that problem. While I did make a few sky bridges to look for a fortress, they ultimately were abandoned because they took too long to make, and when I ran into a ceiling, there was little I could do to get around. I did test out a strider, but I couldn't find a way to get off of it, nor a way to easily kill it, so that wasn't going to work either. In the end, I just went down to ground level and kept exploring by building bridges closer to the ground. It was a very long and arduous journey filled with much pain and suffering. Magma cubes would spawn on my bridges and leave me no choice but to accept my fate in the lava. Skeletons would snipe me from a mile away. Gas would be gas. The mob farm didn't produce enough arrows to justify fighting all of these mobs, so I just had to avoid them as best I could. After a stomach-turning number of hours and deaths, I had finally found a nether fortress. Before we go in, however, I need you to understand how absolutely excruciating being in the nether was. Getting anywhere was a massive pain, and danger was ever present. Look at how long this pathway to the fortress was. Every single time I died, which was a lot, I had to walk, yes, walk, this entire path to get back to the nether fortress. And for a majority of my time there was little protection, so I would frequently die on the way there. Even worse, if I had finally achieved my goal, I had to walk the entire path back, where I risked losing the important items permanently to lava. And if, perchance, my anxiety accidentally tapped the W key a little too quickly, it was an immediate death no matter how gruesome the consequences. Now that you understand that, we can get back to the run. I just had to kill these blazes as fast as possible and get out of here. Thankfully, I had accumulated more than enough arrows from the mob farm, and I had an enchanted bow I lifted from a skeleton. The biggest threat while trying to get the rods were the piglins. Not because they were hyper-aggressive and persistent, but because they reminded me that the old zombie pigman models were no more. Fighting through the tears, it only took me about an hour to get the blaze rods I needed. With the blaze rods safely stored at my base, I now had a new problem to tackle. Ender pearls. Endermen just teleport. Biggest threat while trying to get the rods were the piglins. Not because they were hyper-aggressive and persistent, but because they reminded me that the old zombie pigman models were no more. Fighting through the tears, it only took me about an hour to get the blaze rods I needed. With the blaze rods safely stored at my base, I now had a new problem to tackle. Welcome back to the Minecraft no left click, no jumping, no sprinting, no sneaking, no armor run on hard difficulty. If you haven't already, make sure you check out part 1. The link is in the description. With that being said, let's continue with the run. You must be thinking, he just beat the Ender Dragon. He must be feeling good. He's already been to the Nether. What could go wrong?
皆さん書いたアイテムですね。
If only I had known the suffering that awaited me. The Wither Skulls. Oh man, the Wither Skulls. Farming for them, it started to break me. I feel sick to my stomach just remembering it. Even now, I really do. 9 hours. This took me 9 hours. 9 hours of running this long, windy pathway and then fighting whatever came my way in the fortress with very little protection. This was one of the most painful experiences in a challenge run I've faced. Fuck, alright, let's get into it. The Nether Fortress cycled between being an empty set of corridors with nothing interesting to do and being crowded with mobs determined to ass blast me. Getting attacked from behind numerous times taught me that
Hey everyone, we've all seen servers like 2b2t where there's absolutely no rules, and other YouTubers like Salsy1 who tried to recreate an anarchy environment along with countless other 2b2t clones. But there is an issue. They are all the same, and honestly anarchy really isn't that difficult anymore. Just slap on something like baritone to leave spawn for you, and if it dies, oh well, just try it again and hope for the best. With all the highly advanced public hacks available, there really isn't much difficulty left in escaping spawn or really doing anything. So that's what